Okay, next we're going to set up for a panel discussion entitled Beyond the Bars. And I am really, really pleased to be the person who's going to be moderating that discussion with three phenomenal people, Mika'il DeVeaux, Kirk James, and Yolanda Johnson-Peterson. Okay, I thought I was going to sit down there telling me, no, I'm going to work from the podium. Okay. So let me start uncharacteristically from my right. And first I'm going to introduce Mr. Mika'il DeVeaux, who is the Executive Director of Citizens Against Recidivism and also an adjunct lecturer at the City University of New York. Then we have Ms. Yolanda Johnson-Peterson, who is the Director of Operations for Reentry Services at the Women's Prison Association, a service and advocacy organization committed to helping women with criminal justice histories realize new possibilities for themselves and their families. And last but not least, we have Mr. Kirk James, who is the Director of the Gold Ring Reentry Initiative, and who also graduated with his doctorate in social work in May 2013 from the University of Pennsylvania. Let's give them a warm round of applause. Okay, my first question is going to be to you, Kirk. Would you tell us, please, a little bit about what you were able to achieve while you were incarcerated, and what would you identify as being the key things that enabled you to be successful?
Thank you. I first want to say that I love Kathy wherever she's at. Let's really give a loud applause to Kathy. So prior to me being the director of the Gold Ring Reentry Initiative, prior to me being a doctoral candidate, prior to me being at the University of Pennsylvania, I was 94A 6325. Do you guys know what that is? How many people know what that is, right? Yeah, maybe too many of us know what that is, right? So I was incarcerated in 1994 under the Rockefeller drug laws. I had never been to prison before, never actually had any contact with the criminal justice system, and I was sentenced to life in prison at 18 years old. So prison, it's the most dehumanizing place on earth. Prison, as Angela Davis often says, is really our inability to really address social issues, right? And before I talk about prison, I wanted to read something. It's something that I've been discussing with my classes at the University of Pennsylvania for a while. And it's a line from Comrade George, for you guys who know who I'm talking about, right? So he speaks about black men, but we can actually just take out black men and say people of color, right? So it goes like this. It says, black men born in the US and fortunate enough to live past the age of 18 are conditioned to accept the inevitability of prison. For most of us, it simply looms as the next phase in a sequence of humiliations. Being born a slave in a captive society and never experiencing any objective basis for expectations had the effect of preparing me for the progressively traumatic misfortunes that lead so many black men to the prison gate. I was prepared for prison. It required only minor psychic adjustments. And this was probably written in the 1960s, and in today, in 2013, it probably looms even louder, right? As there's so many of our people that are in prison. And one of the things for me, even someone who, probably never had the trajectory initially where I would end up in prison. How much time do I have? I don't want to kind of monopolize this.
You've exceeded it.
Okay, I'm sorry. So let's just say, I'm going to be frank, prison is really fucked up, right? But But the reality is, though, right, we live in a society where it's okay to dehumanize people, and I think that's really sad. It's really not okay. I mean, the fact that so many people are living in these really horrific conditions, in these horrific situations, I think we all need to wake up as a community, and I'm really sorry if it's eating my time.
That's okay. Thank you. And I'm going to circle back to you, Kirk. But Yolanda, let me pose a question to you. What would you say are some of the common barriers that women in particular confront as they re-enter society after being incarcerated?
Thank you. Thank you for this wonderful opportunity, and thank you for this forum. I would say that some of the barriers that women are facing are of course, when men go to prison, they're macho, and you know, there's a thing about being a male in prison, and boys become men, and that's the myth. But when women go to prison, and especially if she has a child, she then becomes something bad. So she's not a good mother, automatically. Once she gets arrested, she's not a good mom. And some of those barriers are the same barriers that men face on top of trying to bring their families back together. So people are willing often, and I don't know why, to give men an opportunity where they won't give that woman the same often. But we know that women are coming back in, and on that journey coming back into society, they also are the nurturers, and they also need the nurturing. And often the cut pieces and cut aspects that we have for women to journey on, they often are not being able to fit in those particular realms. What I mean by that is that so the parole officer may want her to come to parole, go to a program, and do so and so and so. And once again, the family is saying, take your child back. So she cannot, I mean, we have to have some different systems for women. And also, unfortunately, when women come out of prison, we are not given the same opportunity to work in some of the same areas. So some of the women don't want to work in a cafeteria. They don't want to work in traditional women's jobs. So some of the non-traditional jobs, we're not willing to give those to women. You know, driving trucks and et cetera, you know.
Okay, thank you. Now, Mika'il, I know that you are in school now, and you've been on a journey of education. Could you share a little bit about how education has played a significant role in allowing you to get to where you are today?
Well, I'd like to also thank Kathy and Columbia, for this opportunity to speak to such a large audience and such a large, diverse audience. Since Professor James put some things in context, I'll do the same. I spent 25 years in prison. I went to prison in 1978, and actually, I graduated from Baruch College and in June and went to prison in October. So, but going to college doesn't mean that one knows anything. Let me just say that. But education for me is a process, and I'll quote one of my favorite Hebrews, Frederick Douglass, who said that knowledge makes a child unfit to be a slave. So it was there that I began to really discover things, because another statement of Frederick Douglass is, why am I a slave? And I repeat to my students that same question, asking them to be critical about the situation that they find themselves in, and ask, why am I a slave? And in this context, I guess we should remind the audience that the 13th Amendment of the United States of America says that slavery shall be abolished except for those people that have been convicted of a crime, which for me put the system of incarceration in a different kind of context. Not saying that I or any other person as an individual should not accept the responsibility for the acts that they have done, but often people are encouraged to make poor decisions because of the context in which they live, the environment within which they live. So to answer the question regarding education helped me to reconstruct the reality in which I found myself.
Okay. Thank you. Now I want to ask a question to the three of you. All three of you have taken your skills, your opportunities, your expertise, and you're using it in different ways to assist other people who have been through this system. So I would like to ask each of you to just take, I'll give 2 minutes, to share a little bit about what you are doing in your professional life that serves to make a difference in the mass incarceration horror that we see in the United States. I'll start with you, Kirk.
First of all, I want to give a shout out to the GRI, who's very present here tonight. Stand up, please, so that I really want to acknowledge you guys. So what the GRI is, and this is essentially what I'm doing, the GRI is a program at the University of Pennsylvania. And what we did is, it's a response to the issue of mass incarceration, right? And it's probably a response not as thoroughly as I would like it to be, but nonetheless, it's a response. So what we have done is we work with individuals 3 months. We go into the prisons, they're social work students, amazing social work students who actually believe in the power of human redemption, right? Because as a country, how can we say, you know, with some of the injustices that we've done as a country, how can we say that people don't deserve a second chance, right? You know? This is a country that has dropped bombs on people. This is a country that has enslaved people. So how is we as a country to say that people are not deserving as a second chance? So I think, first of all, the program is a program that believes in the power of human redemption. And these social work students, they actually go into the prisons and they work with individuals 3 months pre-release and 3 months post-release. Because we know the issue of recidivism is such a challenging issue. We know the complex challenges for individuals coming out of the criminal justice system. So this is our second year of doing this work, but I mean, we've had amazing success, and I think the reason why we've had such amazing success isn't even the skill level, right? It's not even the skill level of these guys, and they're very skilled, but it's that human belief, you know, just knowing that someone else believes in you. And I think oftentimes we work with people where no one has ever said that, you know what, you can do it. You know, we believe in you. Something as simple as that, you know, is very powerful. And I think oftentimes we get caught up in research and evidence-based practice, which is really important, right? But at the same time, probably the most important thing is just that power of belief. And these are students that are freaking amazing. I mean, they're there Christmas Day, they're there holidays, you know, going to prisons, you know, they're going to the hood, wherever is necessary, man. You know, so I really want to shout them out. And I think what's so important about the work that we're doing is just that we actually believe in the power of human redemption. And I think that's probably one of the most powerful things.
Thank you. Yolanda, I saw you nodding and affirming, so
Absolutely.
tell us about what you're doing.
One of the things that I do well is that I've been working in challenged populations, not only for people who are formerly incarcerated, specializing in women, of course, but not only with that, but in my own community, because I believe that it starts in the community. If we took some of that $55,000 that we spend per inmate and put it in the first grade, then maybe, just maybe, But you know, you got me fired up when you said that, because I spend every single day of my life, a lot of people in here know I have a very big mouth, and I spend every single day of my life telling some woman or some man or somebody to get an education, that hope is not lost because you're formerly incarcerated. I spend not only even my waking hours, I have special events at my church where people are maybe shunning away other individuals. They're like, I'm okay, but the next person isn't, the ones that didn't write me when I was inside. But anyway, I make sure that people understand this issue. I make sure even the people who may not be looking on the internet, grandmothers and uncles, who may not get that type of public media, is understanding that there's big social injustice that's happening. And I think even being a catalyst for freedom, that every single time the door opens where I can assist Kathy or Missy or Cheryl Wilkins or you or Mika'il, and we'll come on out there where you are too, I'm always there. I'm there. If I'm tired, I'm there, because I know that this issue is important.
Okay. Thank you, Linda. Mika'il, in 2 minutes, if you can, tell the audience a little bit about the work that the Citizens Against Recidivism does and how you see it making a difference in this problem that we face in this country.
Well, first, I'd like to thank my wife for Citizens Against Recidivism, because she actually started the organization while I was in prison. I think it's always important to acknowledge the source of things, and often we forget. But just think of what the word citizens means. Primarily, our mission is to facilitate the restoration of all the rights and attributes of citizenship. And so we think that because people go to prison, that does not mean that they are no longer citizens. But as we see with respect to some of the collateral consequences of incarceration, many of the rights of citizenship are taken from them, and they're no longer allowed to participate as full members in the society. And this is pretty much the issue regarding what people are calling reentry. I think that reentry in and of itself needs to be reframed, or we need to rethink what it is that we're talking about when we talk about reentry. But among the other things that we do is we speak about language. I continually interact with people that come home from prison, and I tell them, as I continue to tell myself, not to identify with many of the labels that have been assigned to them. The people come to our office, I said, here, you're not a parolee. You're Mr. So-and-so. You're not a ex anything. You're Mr. So-and-so. And people that we speak, they have a problem initially understanding that. But as we interact in our groups, they begin to, my name is Mr. So-and-so. And they begin to laugh about it. But again, they're reconstructing in their own minds how they think about themselves and refusing to embrace or internalize oppressive labels and namings that others have given them. So, we utilize a formula that I guess, I think I may have first heard this from, some Panthers, or people that were part of a political party. But it has to do with education, organization, and mobilization. So this, for me, is the formula for empowerment, because empowerment begins with consciousness, changing, one's level or thinking. We need to raise people's levels of thinking about their situation, their environment, and that's a part of some of the other things we do. Besides, having basic needs, supplying basic needs, we provide metro cars, emergency cash, clothing, all these kind of things. But still, people, we have to, in my opinion, reconstruct reality. And I'm getting this from my social welfare training, doctoral training. You have the capacity, you have the ability to reconstruct reality, and we must not shy away from that power. And so the thing that informs us, and I know I'm getting a little drunk here, is empowerment theory. We need power. You cannot make change without power. And people that we're talking about have been disempowered, they have been marginalized, they have been disenfranchised, they have been silenced. And so what we attempt to do in our small corner of the world is to raise those subjugated voices and let them know, listen, you don't have to go for that. Speak.
Yolanda, I want to put this next question to you. Who are the people and or organizations that helped you to navigate a successful return home and find the strength to be able to give back to others?
So I graduated from boot camp. I love to say that I spent 21 months in prison. I was arrested for the direct sale to an undercover of a substance worth $10 and sentenced to 2.5 to 5 years pregnant. And I love to say that for the Mika'ils and the Vivian Nixons and the Glenn Martins and the Andre Wards, that I've been out the longest. So I've been out for 23 years. So I think, and I've been in this work, Mika'il, for 23. So I love to say that in this work, in the boot camp, I was young, so it gave me an opportunity. I really did believe in the boot camp. It gave me an opportunity because I thought the world was mine and everybody else lived in it. I realized when I went to boot camp that it wasn't quite like that. And I was able to come back into my own community and do something different. But I didn't realize that there were such things that had affected me, like trauma. So there was, of course, Father Chillen is sitting in the front row. So of course there was network in the community that played a key part. But I have something even better than that. Could we put the lights up for a moment? Lights, please. Thank you. Could you please stand up? First, I want my husband to stand. Now, y'all know how I am, I get excited. Could you please stand up if you're one of the women who I spoke to in the facility and was telling you the work that was outside and the programs that was outside? Vivian, where are you? Stand up. Stand up. Vivian Nixon, she better be in here. Write that down, she's not here. Okay. But if you have played,
She's backstage.
oh, there she is, that's her, Vivian Nixon. But if, honey, why are you not standing? Watch this. You know I get emotional. If you have played any part in my life, because women who were behind bars also helped me through some real struggles. If you have played any part of my freedom, stand up. CCF, stand up. Oh, they right here. Oh, come here. Come here. Rose, stand up. Andre, stand up. Sharon, stand up. Come on, let's go. Come on. Where's Edna? Come on. Come. Mika'il, you can stand too. Father Chinlin, you're not standing. Where is, and check this out. I know you may think that many people are formerly incarcerated that are standing. Where is Miss, what is it? Vonda Stewart? Where is she? Why are you not standing up? So I'm excited because for me, it takes more than an evidence-based program. For me, it takes more than somebody giving us some funding, which is the bigger issue. It takes the people who walk with me. My mother can no longer stand, but she was standing. She would have been standing and saw me on a positive realm. It takes a village to help us do our freedom. Where's Mercedes? She ain't standing up? Come on. And Missy. And I want to thank all of you who are standing.
Thank you. I'm going to pose one last question. Thanks so much, Yolanda. And then this will be our last question for the evening. What are some of the policies and laws that need to be addressed if we're going to bring about some significant reversal in this horrific destruction of families and communities and society that mass incarceration has caused? And I'm going to ask each of you to address that question in 3 minutes. Mika'il, I see you putting your hand up first. That means you know you have your answer down in 3 minutes.
No, it's not going to take 3 minutes. I mentioned it at the beginning. I don't think that we as a country are serious about addressing prison unless we address the 13th Amendment. Slavery shall be abolished. You know, if slavery shall be abolished, there should be no exception. It should not be except for those who have been convicted of a crime. That is the beginning. That is the foundation of the system. And I think that I think that that is the beginning of reconstructing how we think, because currently it is institutionalized slavery. We have moved from the plantation to the prison. And so if we are serious about, doing anything, we have to change the way we as a country think about the whole system of incarceration. And so, addressing the 13th Amendment for some is, people are a little afraid of that. We don't want to touch the Constitution, but the Constitution is the foundation of this particular country. And so if the current system is predicated upon that amendment, it has to be changed.
Okay. Kirk?
That's a really tough question because I think, to talk about policies that need to be changed, I think we're making the presumption that the system is just. And the system is not just, like you said. I think, we have a system that's been built on oppression. We have a system that's essentially killing. It's a genocide that's taking place, right? So I think before we can even, talk about change, let's talk about humanity, right? Let's talk about, equality. We have a country, the United States of America, the most democratic country on earth, which has the greatest level of inequality in the world. We have the greatest level of incarceration in the world. Is that a coincidence? So I think before we even talk about policy, I think we really need to talk about, just maybe some of the systemic oppression that's actually taking place in the United States.
Okay, thank you. And Yolanda?
I'd be remiss if I didn't mention my brother Andre Ward, who constantly talks to me about the changes in policy. And I think, of course, we're working towards stopping the check the box so that we don't have to be formally incarcerated for the rest of our life for $10 or whatever other crime that we did. But we paid our time. And also, if we put, I said it earlier too, if we put some of that $55,000 in kindergarten, maybe our children will have the opportunity to compete with what's going on in society and in the school systems. I also think that, of course, education must absolutely go back into the facilities. We have to have an educational system inside.
Okay.
And the last part of it is what we're doing here today is that, and sometimes I have a difference of opinion because there's so many beautiful people in this room who are working with us to do this. But there are some profound individuals who are inside and out that can help lend to this conversation. Don't leave them out.
Definitely. Can I get a warm round of applause for our panel?